Look at a map of the Caucasus, and you'll see the physical reality of Armenia's position. It's a landlocked nation where half of its borders, those shared with Turkey and Azerbaijan, are permanently sealed shut. Because of this isolation, Yerevan has spent decades tethered to Russia and the Collective Security Treaty Organization. Moscow provided the physical security umbrella, the energy supply, and the primary export markets. Today, that relationship is effectively frozen. The guarantees that once protected the borders have evaporated, leaving a dangerous power vacuum in a highly contested region. At the exact same time, the state is absorbing a massive demographic shock. Over 115,000 forcibly displaced ethnic Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh have flooded into the country, severely straining housing, jobs, and social services. When you combine the sudden collapse of a national defense umbrella with the staggering financial weight of a refugee crisis, you get a state operating at the very edge of its limits. To secure its borders, Armenia needs a peace treaty with Azerbaijan, but Baku has delivered a strict ultimatum. No treaty will be signed unless Armenia officially rewrites its own constitution. Specifically, Azerbaijan demands the removal of a preamble that references the 1990 Independence Declaration, a document that mentions the reunification of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic and Nagorno-Karabakh. This chart shows the makeup of the Armenian parliament. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's ruling party holds 64 seats, which is roughly half of the total. But altering the constitution requires a two-thirds supermajority. The ruling party doesn't have the votes. The only other option is a nationwide referendum, which carries massive political risks in an already deeply polarized society. The government is caught in a legal gridlock. At the exact moment the country needs maximum diplomatic agility to negotiate its survival, its domestic political math prevents it from moving forward. This graph reveals the scale of the military disparity. Even after recent increases, Armenia's defense budget sits at $1.7 billion. Across the border, Azerbaijan operates with roughly $5 billion. To survive that gap without relying on Moscow, Yerevan is executing a strategy of asymmetric deterrence. Over the last 3 years, they've signed $2.5 billion in new arms contracts with entirely new partners. France has stepped in to overhaul Armenia's air awareness and command structures, providing advanced Groundmaster 200 high-precision radars, alongside comprehensive audits of their officer training programs. The French partnership also includes the procurement of highly mobile Caesar self-propelled artillery units. Meanwhile, India is supplying advanced anti-drone technology and the Pinaka multiple rocket launch systems. New Delhi is also delivering heavy 155mm field artillery to reinforce defensive lines. This new arsenal cannot match a $5 billion military tank for tank. What it does is create a steep technological threshold. It ensures that any potential large-scale invasion becomes far too costly in both equipment and manpower to justify. Beyond military hardware, survival requires fixing the economy. That brings us to the TRIP initiative, a plan designed to unlock and rebuild a defunct Soviet railway cutting right through Armenia's southern Sunik province. This map details the American proposal for the 44-kilometer route. The U.S. government, through its International Development Finance Corporation, would control 74% of the operating company on a 49-year contract, leaving Armenia with a 26% stake. But Azerbaijan has a conflicting demand. They insist on an unimpeded transit route straight through this exact corridor with absolutely no Armenian border guards or customs checks. Then there is Iran. Tehran officially declared a strict red line. They won't tolerate American infrastructure or Western personnel operating directly on their northern border. Sunik has evolved into a volatile global choke point where the core interests of the United States, Iran, Russia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan directly collide. What we are watching is a real-time geopolitical stress test. Armenia is attempting to pit its internal democratic assets against the harsh physical reality of its geography. The country has valuable tools at its disposal: a lucrative tech sector, a global diaspora that commands heavy lobbying resources, and democratic institutions that continuously attract European financial grants. But those assets are constantly overshadowed by existential threats. There is the persistent military danger to the southern corridor, and the looming risk that Moscow could deploy a crippling economic embargo. shutting off energy supplies and agricultural exports in an instant. To survive this transition, Yerevan has to flawlessly leverage those economic and technological advantages to outweigh the heavy disadvantages of its physical isolation. Analyzing these factors, strategic researchers have modeled 3 distinct paths for Armenia's immediate future. The first, termed the integration scenario, carries a 30 to 35% probability. This assumes a constitutional compromise is reached, leading to open borders and an influx of Western capital. The baseline projection, with a 50% probability, is a hybrid status quo. This is a continuation of current tensions, border skirmishes and diplomatic stalemates without a formal resolution. The final scenario, which analysts estimate at a 15 to 20% probability, is total crisis, either through a direct military escalation or economic paralysis triggered by a total break with Russia. To navigate this shift, Armenia must abandon its historical dependencies. Its survival now depends on whether a small democracy can manage these surrounding authoritarian giants with total strategic pragmatism.